Hey everyone, stick around and let me show you how to make these super easy peanut butter and jelly cookies that only take about 20 minutes. So the first thing we are going to do is sift together all of our dry ingredients. We're going to start with 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1 teaspoon of table salt. Go ahead and sift that all together. Next, we'll get out our stand mixer with the paddle attachment and we'll start working on our wet ingredients. Our first wet ingredient up is going to be 1 cup or 2 sticks of salted butter, which you're going to want at room temperature. Our next ingredient up is going to be the peanut butter. Any flavor, any brand is fine. Creamy or peanut butter is fine either, buyer's choice. And for that, we're going to need about 1 cup, and you could measure it if you want. I'm just going to eyeball it a little more. It's not going to hurt you. After that, we're going to add 1 cup of firmly packed brown sugar. Light or dark is fine. And we're going to follow that up with 1 cup of granulated sugar. And last thing to our wet ingredients is about a teaspoon of some vanilla extract. Then we're going to add our bowl to our stand mixer with the paddle attachment and beat this on medium speed for about 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, your batter should start to look nice and thick and fluffy, and then we're going to move on to the next step, which is adding 2 eggs, one at a time, until they are fully incorporated into our mixture. And the last thing we got to do is take our flour mixture and slowly, little by little, add that until it is fully combined. After everything is fully incorporated, we're going to scrape down the bowl and scrape off our paddle attachment. And now a little bit of disclosure here, full disclosure. These are absolutely ready to bake right now, and it should only take you about 20 minutes to finish this whole recipe. However, if you have the time, I would recommend putting your batter in the fridge for about an hour, which is what I'm gonna do. Or if you even had the time, you could leave it overnight. So again, totally optional, but that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna wrap mine up and stick it in the fridge for about an hour just to develop those flavors even more, and then we're gonna bake them. Okay, so now we're ready to bake. We got a baking dish lined with either parchment paper or one of these non-stick mats. So what we are going to do is take a very small amount of our peanut butter dough, about a tablespoon, roll it around in the palms of our hands until we get a nice ball, and then place it on our baking sheet. Repeat those same steps for the rest of your batter and place them about 2 inches apart. Yes, I know, that's a very generous 2 inches right there. Now you're gonna wanna go around and give each of your balls a little pat. Yo, who comes up with this? Who writes the script for this? Get out of here, yo. Then we're going to take our thumb and go around to each of the balls and make a slight indentation. And this is going to hold our jelly while our cookie bakes. Okay, now I got some raspberry jam in a piping bag, and I know I just said jelly, but jam is what you want. And as far as the flavors, any flavor you want, you could use grape, strawberry, raspberry, apricot, really, that's up to you. Again, buyer's choice. So we'll continue filling all of our cookies up with our jam, and then we're gonna give it a tappa just to help that jam settle a little bit and get it flat. And then these are gonna go into a 350-degree oven for 12 minutes. Okay, our cookies are finished baking. They are fresh out of the oven. What we are going to do now is let them rest on our baking sheet for about 5 minutes, and then we are going to move them to a wire rack to cool completely. And one last thing we're going to do is we're going to hit these with a little bit of powdered sugar, which is going to be for decoration, but it's also going to add a little bit more sweetness, which is always good. And that's it. Our peanut butter and jelly cookies are finished. And let me tell you, these peanut butter and jelly cookies were something else. The peanut butter cookie was soft and tender. That ooey gooey jam was nice and delicious. I used the raspberry one and I think it came out perfectly. I think it complemented the peanut butter cookies perfectly. Let me tell you, if you love peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, you definitely gotta make this. If you love peanut butter, you gotta make this. If you love jam or jelly, you gotta make this. These are awesome. All right, y'all, that's it for this video, and that's it from me. I'm gonna see y'all in the next one. Subscribe for more. Bye. Today, we're gonna make these incredibly delicious Reese's Pieces peanut butter cookies. Let me show you how I did it. Okay, we're gonna start by, whoa, I swear that cat is never on the table like that. Please don't judge me for that. Okay, so we're gonna start by getting out a few of our ingredients. The first thing we're gonna need is 1.5 sticks of butter. And for me, I like to brown my butter whenever I'm making cookies, such as chocolate chip cookies. So I'm going to brown my butter. If you don't wanna brown your butter, you can just leave it out and let it come to room temperature and move on to the next step. For me, we're gonna brown this butter. Now, believe it or not, browning butter is pretty easy to do, and it only should take you about 8 minutes. So if you're new to this and you're kind of nervous and you want a guide, you can put your timer on for about 8 minutes. But you gotta be careful though, because even though this is easy, it will burn really quickly when it's almost finished. Okay, so we got our butter cut into chunks. We got it into a stainless steel pan. We got it over medium heat, and we're going to start stirring this and stirring this and stirring. Now, eventually you will see that butter start to become frothy and you will hear it start crackling. Don't panic. That's a good thing. Just keep stirring. And eventually all your hard work will pay off. You'll start to see brown speckles in the butter below, and you'll start to smell a nice nutty aroma. Once your butter starts to turn brown and you see it, immediately remove it from the heat. You're going to want to transfer it to a separate bowl, and we're going to let this cool completely all the way down to room temperature, and you will see it start to harden. So we'll take our brown butter and set it to the side until we need it. Okay, next get a large cutting board, and we're going to go over some of our ingredients. First ingredient we're going to go over is this Baker's semi-sweet chocolate bar, which we are going to rough chop into some pieces in a little bit. Next, we got the star of the show, if it will bother to unblur the Reese's Pieces. Of course, that's the star of the show. I love these things. And next, for some even more peanut butter flavor, we got the Reese's Pieces peanut butter chips. And of course, you don't have to use this brand of chocolate bar. This is just what I like to use. Also, you don't have to use the chocolate bar at all if you don't want to. You could just use regular chocolate chips. But for me, I like the way the chocolate melts when you chop up the chocolate chunks of chocolate from the chocolate bar. So I'm going to be using that. We'll get our chocolate chopped up and put into a bowl. We'll get our Reese's Pieces. We'll put that to the side. And then for our Reese's Pieces peanut butter chips, we're going to be using about half a cup of those. So we'll measure that out, and we'll put that to the side as well. Okay, time for some dry ingredients. We'll get a medium bowl, and to that we're gonna add 2 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour, nicely leveled and measured. And to that we're gonna add 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and last but not least 1 teaspoon of table salt. I'm using pink Himalayan, but of course you use what you got. We're gonna give all that a whisk, and then we're gonna set it to the side until we're ready to use it. Next we'll break out our stand mixer or your hand mixer, or your hand and a mixer. Use whatever you got. Okay, so to our mixing bowl we're going to add our now hardened brown butter, along with 3/4 cup of white granulated sugar, 3/4 cup of firmly packed brown sugar, and a dash of vanilla extract. Load that into your stand mixer, and with your paddle attachment we're going to mix this on medium speed for about 3 minutes. And once you got something nice and fluffy like this, we're going to scrape down the sides of our bowl and then move on to the next step, which is we're going to add 2 eggs, one at a time, beating well after the addition of each egg. After which we're going to take our flour mixture and slowly, little by little, add that all in on medium-low speed until it is all fully incorporated. And finally, the time has come. Scrape down the sides of your bowl, scrape off your paddle attachment. Then we're going to take all our chocolates and our peanut butters. We're going to add that right into our stand mixer until it just barely combine, less than a minute. Next, get a cookie sheet, a cookie scoop, and start scooping these. And you can place these as close as you want for now, and here's why. After I'm done scooping all of my cookies, these are going into the fridge overnight so those flavors can develop even more. Now, you don't have to do this, but if you do, those cookies will be phenomenal. You could even keep these in the freezer for up to a month and just pop them into the oven anytime you want. And trust me, you will thank yourself for waiting. If you pop these into the freezer for like a day or two and just let those flavors mingle, let the flavors develop, you will be thanking yourself. And you'll be thanking me, so it's a win-win-win-win-win. Okay, it's officially the next day. We got our cookies out of the fridge. We got our oven set to 350. We're ready to bake these cookies into some deliciousness. So we got another cookie sheet lined with a nonstick mat, and we're gonna place a couple of cookies, not too many. You don't wanna overcrowd here because they're gonna spread out. So we got a couple of cookies on our mat, a couple of inches apart, and we're gonna bake this 350 degrees for about 14 to 15 minutes. Okay, so while our cookies are baking, we're gonna get out our Reese's Pieces, a couple of paper plates, and we're gonna start separating these candies. Now, you don't have to be as OCD as I'm being, but I figured, I want at least one of each flavor in each of my cookies, so we're gonna go ahead and separate all of our little candy pieces. After about 14 minutes in the oven, your cookies should be done. Pull them out when they're nice and golden brown, and then immediately take those candy pieces that you just separated, and we're gonna start placing them right into our cookies while our cookies are nice and warm. Once all your candy pieces are in, let these sit on the baking tray for 5 minutes before removing them to a wire rack or a separate baking tray to cool completely. And that's it. Our Reese's Pieces peanut butter cookies are done. These came out amazing. Let me tell you, you gotta make these. Anybody who's a fan of peanut butter and chocolate definitely has to make these cookies, guys. All right, that's it for me in this video. I'm out. Stay safe and all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next video. What's up, guys? Today we're gonna make these brown butter chocolate chunk cookies. Oh my god, so amazing. first step, we're gonna grab 1.5 sticks of salted butter. For reference, that's 175 grams or 6.15 ounces. So grab yourself a medium saucepan, add your butter, and then bring it over to the stove. Now I know brown butter can be sort of intimidating if you're doing it for the first time. I know it was for me. So a trick that I always do, even now, put your timer on for 8 minutes because this will be done in approximately 8 minutes, give or take a minute or so. We got this on medium-low heat. Now your butter will start to melt, so just keep it moving, just keep it moving. Okay, now here we are with 3 minutes left. As you can see, the butter is really starting to crack and popple and foam. This is where you want to keep stirring. Okay, this is 2 minutes left, and you can see something magical is starting to happen. That butter is starting to brown, starting to get golden. This is where you want to keep stirring. Okay, and with less than a minute to go, our butter has a nice nutty aroma. It has a beautiful amber color. You want to remove this from the heat immediately. Okay, now it's really easy to go from brown butter to burnt butter. So as soon as your butter starts to brown, remove it from the heat immediately, add it to a separate bowl, and then as it cools, if you want, you can stir off some of those foams on the top, but you don't have to. And there you go, the brown butter is complete, and it wasn't that hard, was it? It only took about 8 minutes. Now you can use this in almost any recipe that calls for butter or melted butter to give it an extra layer of richness or deep flavor. This stuff is amazing. Try it. Now for our brown butter chocolate chip cookies, we're gonna let this butter come to room temperature, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, our brown butter is almost cool, so now is the perfect time to go over the chocolate for our chocolate chip cookies. For our first chocolate, I'm gonna add 1 bar of either dark chocolate or semi-sweet chocolate cut into chunks, plus 1 cup of these classic semi-sweet Toll House chocolate chips. Okay, give your brown butter a quick stir, and then we're going to add it right to a stainless steel mixing bowl, along with 3/4 cup of granulated sugar and 3/4 cup of brown sugar. Now we're going to cream the butters and the sugars, put this on medium speed, and mix it for about 5 minutes. Scrape down the sides of your bowl, then we're going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. While our sugars and butters are creaming, we're going to gather our dry ingredients. We're going to start with 2 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour, plus 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Grab your most favorite, not your least favorite whisk, and give this a good mix. We're also going to grab 2 eggs, crack them into a separate container because we're going to add these to our mixture 1 egg at a time. After both of your eggs are mixed in, you should have this beautifully colored mixture. We're going to scrape down the sides of our bowl, then we're going to start adding our dry ingredients, our flour mixture, in little by little until it is all incorporated. After your dry ingredients are all incorporated, it's time to add that chocolate. We're going to add all our chocolate chunks in, let this mix until everything is nicely mixed in. After all your goodies are mixed in, cover this bad boy with some plastic wrap. Then I want you to stick this in the fridge for 20 minutes to let that dough, sort of firm up a little bit before we scoop them and roll them into balls. Okay, after 20 minutes, grab a scoop and let's portion these out. Now I like my cookies on a little bit of the bigger side, so I'm going to use a bigger scoop. Okay, now here's the thing. You can either refrigerate these until tomorrow and bake them all tomorrow, or you could freeze them in Ziploc bags for up to a month and take them out whenever you want one and eat one as you want one. Now, if you decide to freeze these, you can bake them straight from the freezer, 350 degrees for 17 to 19 minutes. So we're going to cover these with plastic wrap and put these in the fridge overnight. See you tomorrow. Okay, it is officially the next day. We're going to get our cookies out, get our oven set to 350. Look at that, straight disrespectful. Okay, we got a baking tray, a non-stick mat if you're using it, otherwise parchment paper, or you could raw dog it. Cookies on the mat, then bake 350 degrees, 14 to 16 minutes. Okay, now here's what's gonna separate your cookies from the rest of them. As soon as these come out of the oven, I know it's gonna be tempting, but trust me, let these sit on the baking tray for at least 5 minutes before removing them, either to the countertop or a wire rack to cool completely. Trust me on that. And that's it. Your chocolate chip cookies are done. They are ready to enjoy now. Warm, cold, make an ice cream sandwich out of them. I don't know, whatever you do with them, you're gonna love them. All right, everyone, that's it for this video. That's it for me. That's it for me in this video. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. You know I will. So a little bit of a confession. I've never had a peanut butter blossom. Okay, not that I never had one. Maybe when I was little, when I was younger. But I made some the other day, and I gotta say, now I know why people love them. The outside is buttery and crisp. The inside is rich and chewy. Then you got that nice, soft Hershey Kiss on top. It's like a little kiss on your forehead when you eat it. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is get our stand mixer or electric mixer. Remove the bowl and attach the paddle attachment. Into our stand mixer bowl, we're gonna add 1/2 cup of softened salted butter and 1/2 cup of creamy peanut butter. Okay, we're gonna put our bowl into our stand mixer, and then we're gonna cream the peanut butter and the butter for about 3 minutes on medium speed. Okay, everyone, so after 3 minutes, we're going to add in 1/2 cup of some granulated sugar and 1/2 cup of packed brown sugar. plus 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Then we're gonna put this back on medium speed so we can cream our peanut butter, brown sugar, and granulated sugar for about 3 minutes. Okay, then we're gonna crack in 1 egg. Then turn your mixer on and let that mix in. Once our batter is nice and creamy, we're ready to move on to the next step, which is getting our dry ingredients ready. We're gonna add 1.5 cups all-purpose flour, 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, and just a dash of table salt. We're gonna give this a mix. Okay, then with our mixer on low speed, we're going to slowly add in our flour until all our flour is incorporated and our dough starts to form. Okay, once our dough starts to form, we're gonna scrape down the sides of the bowl, scrape off our paddle attachment, and then you can put your stand mixer away. This job is done. Okay, once we got our dough formed, which should look something like this, we're going to take 2 teaspoons and start rolling them into 1-inch balls. Something like this. Place that onto our baking dish, and we're gonna do the rest. Okay, our peanut butter balls are all done. We're gonna take another bowl, and we're gonna fill that up with about a cup of granulated sugar. So we got our peanut butter balls, granulated sugar, and a second baking tray. Now what we're gonna do is take the amount of peanut butter balls that we wanna bake. I'm gonna try, I don't know, maybe 15 at first. So we're gonna take our peanut butter balls, drop them in our granulated sugar, roll them around, get them nice and coated. So it looks like that, a little powdered donut, and then right onto our baking tray. You want these about 2 inches apart. Once you have all your peanut butter balls rolled in sugar, we're gonna bake these in a 375-degree preheated oven for 8 to 10 minutes. Okay, and while our peanut butter balls are baking into peanut butter cookies, we're going to unwrap our Hershey Kisses. Okay, so our next few steps are gonna happen rather quickly. We're gonna let our cookies rest on our baking tray for just 1 minute, just to firm up a bit. Then we are going to immediately press our Hershey Kisses right into the center of our cookies, pressing down. And you want to see that cracking and everything, it's okay. Then we're going to remove these to our second baking tray. Then these are going to go right into the fridge for about 20 minutes to firm up. Now, one quick thing to keep in mind, if you're going to bake a second batch, either use a separate baking tray or let this one cool completely before you bake your second batch. I mean, if you like peanut butter and chocolate, you're definitely gonna wanna make these cookies. Okay, so that's it for this video. Give me a like and a subscribe if you enjoy it. As for me, I'm gonna finish the rest of these peanut butter blossoms.